I don't understand. If you like that, like go ahead, do it. I
Yeah.
I just can't imagine why someone would pay for this drawing. Like
Uh-huh.
why?
I ask
And by the
myself that
way,
question all the
where
time.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you always say it's for a game, and I never see the game, and I never see your painting in the game. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, it doesn't work like that exactly.
Hey guys, this is Eben here. The following video is a interview I did with Adrian Virlan, who is a great concept artist. He's worked on a number of different games and some tabletop games, illustrations, that kind of stuff over the past decade or so. And we're just going to be chatting a little bit about his sort of development as an artist, some sort of greater principles that he's been following in terms of developing his own art and following his own passions, and sort of how he got into concept art and sort of went from just creating art as a hobby to creating it more professionally and doing what he's doing now, which is sort of working on his own independent project, which is this universe that he's creating. It's all really cool stuff. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Adrian. And if you haven't yet, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much and enjoy.
Yeah, so I'll just, give a little background about you, for people who maybe aren't familiar with your work. I mean, you and I met through Evident. I've been doing work through them, and you created this awesome visual storytelling course, and we did a workshop together there, and I'll be including links to those in the description as well if people want to check that out. But you've been doing concept art for a while now, for video games and for some tabletop games, and sort of achieved this really cool, like really vast, like cinematic landscape style, and this really detailed, awesome stuff. So I guess I'm curious to know kind of where that started, and kind of what your journey has been a little bit like. Everyone starts somewhere, and
Yeah.
we aren't just born directly into making concept art for a living. And for a lot of people, that's like a really cool, kind of end goal for them. So, just tell me a little bit about sort of how that started and how you got here.
So I recently made a video on my YouTube channel about like childhood drawings that I used to make, when I was a kid,
I think I saw that.
and how it all started. And like if I really have to go to the very beginning, that's where I would start. I don't really remember like the first time I did anything, but yeah, I was just like most other artists, as far as I know now, that it starts around like 2 years old, 3 years old, as soon as you can grab a pencil and draw something. And then you start perfecting that. Now it starts to look like a person, like a house, like a dog, like stuff you can really identify. And my parents saw that and they nurtured it, like they were like, oh, this guy's gonna be an artist, And then I started to kind of see stuff on TV, like cartoons, like, yeah, just TV shows that inspired me and made me kind of wanted to, replicate those designs in a way. And then I got to a point where I was like merging those with my own ideas. And this transition, I think that is what, it's not necessarily that one thing is before the other, like I first copied TV shows and then I made my own stuff. It's rather like a very organic kind of thing, where I would paint regular, ordinary, everyday scenes that you can also see in that video that I mentioned. Like, for instance, my parents at the park playing with, a ball or whatever, or I don't know, just any ordinary thing, right? Regular landscapes, everyday stuff. And then it started to kind of shape into this fantasy oriented kind of theme, which is my jam.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's say I was experimenting with everything, every kind of technique that was available to me, like acrylics. Okay, let's do acrylics. Let's do watercolor then. Okay, then this one. And then more dry techniques like pastels or like charcoal or I don't know, pencil, pen, it doesn't matter. Anything I had available, I would try it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until high school that they started to really teach like this. I'm saying high school, but I should say high school degree because it's right after high school
Hmm.
where they really made sure you learn the fundamentals of like charcoal painting, which is where you start to do like bigger paintings on bigger pieces of paper. And it was those kind of boring composition, not compositions, but boring kind of I'm not sure how to say this in English, where you draw like a cube and then a an apple or
Just
uh,
kind of like those
a
fundamentals
pyramid.
exercises. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm saying this because in Spanish there's a name for that. It's called bodegon,
Mm.
and yeah, it's like uh just to practice light, shapes, uh all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not much color because it's all black and white, but you really have to wrap your mind around the fact that there are those fundamentals that you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, that you have to kind of learn. And yeah, and yeah, it's like a bunch of stuff that I could be talking about it forever. Like for instance, seeing like a Discovery Channel show where a guy was just designing the cars that they were going to redesign, in fact, because they would steal your car, and make it super cool and send it back to you, in a really yeah, it was like a prank kind of show, but more of a serious tone. It was called Overhauling, I think.
Huh.
And yeah, so I would see what that guy was using. So I'm like, markers and pencil and airsoft brushes and I don't know, airbrushes of that kind. Like I don't have that, but I do have the markers, for instance. So let's try that.
Yeah.
And I would try to mix up all these kind of techniques. And yeah, until I was studying it was like graphic design branch, more oriented towards like advertising. So that was just the branding of that course, I think, because honestly it was all about graphic design, like
Mm-hmm.
pure theory of design and color and all that stuff, all these things that you still use nowadays. So that's where they made us do a lot of logo design, understanding branding, doing like lots of several other applications of the logo, like I don't know, envelopes or like
Mm-hmm.
different variations of it. And they had this photography class, which they required you to have like a camera, like a DSLR camera to learn proper photography techniques. That got me into it as well, which I'm still using that knowledge for like understanding lenses and how they work in 3D space and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Then also like some cinema history, filmmaking kind of stuff. Um, why am I mentioning all of this? Because all this range of different experiments let me kind of yeah, just try and see how it is, try make a little movie, try make a sequence of photography that inspired whatever kind of feeling, like
Mm-hmm.
practicing these types of exercises really helped me understand a little better um, the concept of creativity, of like making stuff happen in
Mm-hmm.
any shape or whatever. And it was at that time that I bumped into like these YouTube videos from Feng Zhu, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm realizing how this is like a common way for people to get into concept art,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people. It was through Feng Zhu and stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, that's when I realized like, what? This is possible. This is okay. So this is concept art. All right. Because until that day, I only associated concept art to the fact that if I Google that, beautiful images of Assassin's Creed and other video games would pop up, and I loved it. but I
Hmm.
never really understood what it was. So these videos, man, I was treating them like daily lessons almost. And that led me to kind of practice my own stuff and got my first job, and then the next one and the next one, and then personal projects, and always exploring like lots of different things. Like when you were saying, like, yeah, I did work on video games, on tabletop games, like mostly the books for the tabletop games and the illustrations they contain. But I also got to kind of explore and attempt, like, give my best, to other areas, like for instance storyboarding
Hmm.
or animating certain projects, like with layers and stuff, just trying anything that I feel like attracted towards, like,
Hmm.
okay, let's see how it is like. And yeah, now right now I'm just, besides working for other clients, I'm just developing my own project Heavenurian, which has been in the making for quite a while. And I'm just having so much fun writing and kind of putting together all the pieces that I'm realizing have been like floating in my mind, for a while. Now it's like I have a way to glue them together through
Hmm.
like a story. And it's a complicated, very complex process, but it's so enjoyable. It's what gives me like this joy that I like so much. So yeah, about the fantasy leaning side of mine, I don't know. I don't think I can explain that. It's just that, do you know how you like stuff that you would never work on because you don't like to work on that, but you would gladly consume it? Like, for instance, some sci-fi things,
Hmm.
StarCraft, or any movie that you can bring up. Yeah, I do enjoy them. The same
Hmm.
way I enjoy more stylized kind of art from other
Hmm.
video games. But I would never see myself working like that, in that style, in that specific way, right?
Mm,
But
yeah,
I do
yeah.
enjoy the product. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Hmm.
My stuff is more leaning towards like more, should I say this, like more realistic in a way,
Hmm.
right? So yeah.
That's always a really cool moment when like you, I don't know. I feel like that was a pivotal moment for me, I guess, in the development of style, which, I feel like, most artists will say that's not something you can really practice. It just kind of, comes with time and experience. But like when you see like great artwork and you're like, wow, I really appreciate what that is, and I appreciate the craftsmanship, and it's just so well done. But if I were to
Mhm.
do that, I probably wouldn't do it that way. It's like
Yeah.
it's just beautiful in its own right, but it's like, yeah, I would probably approach it differently. That's kind of a cool
Yeah.
thing. Um, but yeah, I want to ask you about it's Heavenurian. Is that how you say it?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
want to ask you about that in a second, but I kind of want to backtrack a little bit first,
Sure.
because I'm just curious about so like Marco Bucci has this whole this really cool discussion of talent in a lot of his videos, but also in he has this book, Creativity in the Campfire, um, and I found it really fascinating, and I enjoy learning about this from other artists because like basically his thing is like talent can be a real inhibiting factor for people if they kind of start out with a certain level of skill. They don't really develop they may not develop good habits around that and like practice habits, and they get used to being really good. And then later on, that kind of catches up with them. Whereas like the people who, are like, we're never like the talented kid, or we're never the best in the class or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
they tend to, develop good practice skills and stuff and good habits around that. And they work hard and they like make incremental growth and eventually kind of, um,
Yeah.
make a lot more progress. So I'm curious about, with you, did you find that like you felt like you had talent, or did you find, that you were like better than a lot of kids, or did that, come into play at all, or were you just kind of like always just focused on like having fun with with the art and like you know.
Yeah, it's definitely this last thing you said.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
look, I grew up with a lot of people telling me like how talented I am, you know,
Hmm.
like this is a gift that you have, you know. Not many people know how to do this the way you do it. And
Hmm.
this is like what 5-year-old Adrian, you know, just what? Yeah, whatever, you know, and just drawing and jamming with those creations and I grew up thinking that okay, you know, I don't see nobody else doing this around me. So
Hmm.
maybe it is true, right? Maybe I do have some talent. Maybe, and of course, those drawings that I show on that video that I mentioned, the same way you don't remember games from the 2000s with those awful graphics,
Hmm.
the same way I didn't remember those drawings to be that bad, right?
Right, right,
Because you do imagine them better than they are.
right.
So of course, you grow up thinking that you have some innate kind of natural birthright, something you were born with, you
Right.
know, like, yeah, I'm an artist, which that's, I think, for another conversation, like how genes kind of keep going through
Hmm.
generations and stuff like that. And I don't know. I just know that I had fun doing this. And there was a lot of people telling me, like, this is something that very few people have. And yeah, like you said, you get to a point where it catches up with you and you realize, okay, so there's a lot of people out there. They're much, much better than me, right?
Yeah.
Fortunately, I realized this when I was still like, I don't know, 12, 13. Like I was a teenager
Hmm.
and I realized that now that I'm no longer like that kid from school that draws, you know, that guy from class that does those drawings. Now there's like other kids like me,
Hmm.
and maybe they're better, maybe they're worse. It doesn't matter. What
Hmm.
mattered to me is like, oh, another one like me, you know, like another artist. So then, of course, that branches out into like it scales up in high school and later on when you know you get to have this presence online. When I started to make contacts on Facebook and those um what are they called, like the level up group and stuff like that on
Hmm.
Facebook, like where you can submit your art and you get like feedback and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's where you realize, holy shit, dude, I'm so behind, you know, there's no way these people are so good. And this leads me to the moment where I start collecting like I made a folder with like digital art, you know, that I admire. And I remember I had Andrea Wallin right there, and I had many other artists that I was like, how can they paint like this? It's just so perfect. And those were just sketches, by the way. Like
Right.
I would freak out at anything, literally anything. I don't care if it's digital or traditional, you know. I
Hmm.
remember I had this dragon drawing like pencil made, and I was trying to draw the same way, but it's like, you know, that stiffness that, you know, you don't you don't have that flow when you're beginning. So
Right.
you're still trying to make it perfect. And it shows. That's
Hmm.
like a language, you know, that's something you communicate with your stiffness. And that I think that can only be achieved through like a lot of practice and a lot of experience,
Hmm.
and that needs time, which is what a lot of us don't understand nowadays, that good things take time. And
Hmm.
this culture of like quick results, you know, like okay, success overnight and stuff like that. What do they call this? There's a name, like short-term gratification, I think. You know,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I need it now,
Hmm.
tomorrow. I need to be a professional concept artist. And
Right.
there's a lot of titles out there, like, you know, with this thing you'll become the best concept artist ever in only like this amount of time. And
Hmm.
that just doesn't work. Like I would freak out seeing people like Anthony Jones do demos as they speak, you know, and tell a story and just engage so much with the audience at the same time as they're developing like a perfect masterpiece in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is going on? How can you do that? So I tried to kind of get used to the fact that I must learn how to speak and how to draw at the same time, you know, kind of at the same level, or at least keep a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually I have to choose, either I focus on the drawing or I focus on the speech,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't do both at an equal amount of quality. But that's what live streaming helped me with, like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago, I started to kind of try it out on Twitch, and it was really fun. Not many
Mm-hmm.
people joined, but because I didn't have many followers and not many people engage in that kind of activities, like they just don't want to spend time watching someone paint, and they
When there's
prefer to
video
do it
games to be
themselves.
played, and TV to
Yeah,
watch
there's
and all
like,
that.
look, there's an audience for everybody out there, so
Right.
you just got to find your own.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, that's how I actually learned that. Yeah, it's not talent, or I don't know, it's not a debate, whether it is talent or is not talent, or hard work beats talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I remember now. First thing comes to mind is one thing I heard long ago about talent being represented as like a parasite that visits you when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feed that parasite long enough, like, it stays with you and develops into something else. If not, it dies. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you run into a lot of people who say, yeah, I like to draw too when I was a kid, I was pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. But then I stopped. My
Yeah.
parents did not encourage me, and they come up with some really, really sad story that makes me go like, oh, damn, dude, if you would have kept going, man.
Right.
So yeah, I feel extremely fortunate to have, like, I think this matters so much. And I deeply respect the ones who, despite all these odds, everything against them, their family wanted them to become an engineer, a doctor, or something like that. They wanted to paint,
Mm-hmm.
and they kept going. And now look at them, 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what now? and they're successful in their own way. Okay.
Right.
So I love that a lot, and I recognize how important having this support early in life is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you had a lot of support from like your parents and stuff like that, which is that's
Yeah, they
that's great.
still do not understand exactly what I'm doing.
Right.
But well, at least my mom does,
Uh-huh.
but she doesn't understand like the little technical stuff,
Mhm.
about why would someone pay you for your work and stuff
Right.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is just simply like outside of it entirely. Like, I don't understand. If you like that, like, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine why someone would pay for this drawing. Like,
Uh-huh.
why?
I ask
and by
myself
the way,
that question all the
where
time.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you always say it's for a game, and I never see the game, and I never see your painting in the game.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, it doesn't work like that exactly. But yeah, it's crazy to see how the whole this whole technology is like evolving,
Yeah.
and getting more and more complex, even escaping like our understanding,
Yeah, well, I mean,
So
even like, you're getting into like a lot of VR stuff right now, and I'm seeing a lot of people doing that, like Tyler Edlin and stuff, where it's almost, I don't know, I just can't imagine anyone like from the previous generation looking at that and be like, that's your job? Like, you just sit with this thing and
yeah,
you're just
right.
like sculpting these imaginary things that you send to, a company that puts them in an imaginary product or a virtual product. And
Yeah, it's
like,
just virtual. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
pretty
Like
wild.
seeing it from like a big picture perspective is like, what are you doing with your life, man? But when you're in there, it's completely different.
Mhm.
I'm a big supporter of like health and exercise and just doing what makes you human, right?
Mhm.
But also, I can't help it but to embrace these kind of technologies that enables me to kind of look, for instance, VR, especially Gravity Sketch. I find it so natural. Like, I just make art with my hands. I don't have to press
Mhm.
buttons to do this, or
Yeah.
which one do I press to do what? It's just your hands and those triggers. You just move stuff around. It's so intuitive.
Mm.
That's something that I think it's like a barrier that they broke, the
Mhm.
barrier of like having to learn which controls, which commands do what in
Mhm.
tell me any 3D software. You know, they're all pretty much the same. They have a viewport, camera, they have like tons of different buttons and
So many
panels.
menus and panels. Yeah,
Yes, yes. So VR is entirely different to that.
yeah.
So yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting how it's kind of come full circle, almost like where when digital art, it's such a recent thing. I mean, a lot of these technological advances are, but like creating
Right.
digital art and digital paintings, hasn't been happening for more than like 20 years
Hmm.
ish, 20, 30 years maybe. And I'm not totally sure about that, but in any case, like, yeah, I mean, that's one of the big obstacles, is like you have to deal with the technological medium. And yeah, I mean, for me, that kind of kills it sometimes when I'm just like, I'm sit down, like, I want to make some art. And then I got like a keyboard and I have like this, the stylus and the different stuff and the
Yeah.
different shortcuts and hotkeys. And I'm like, I just want to draw.
Yeah. Same
But
here. I feel so bad that I'm not using my, regular sketchbooks no more.
yeah.
At least not as much as I would love to,
Hmm.
because that's what I actually bought the iPad for,
Hmm.
like expecting to be able to paint outside and do all those things that you see everybody else doing, like, oh,
Hmm.
plein air painting. Yeah, that must be so cool.
Hmm.
And you see everybody else doing it like for real, like with gouache or whatever. They have brushes, and
Hmm.
it's like a convenience factor that plays a big role in that decision of, okay, instead of doing that the traditional way, I'm going to buy an iPad. And then you start to come up with all these excuses, like to justify why do you need that iPad instead.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it would be cool to store some art as well, and maybe I can draw on the train on my way to like whatever.
Hmm.
Dude, it's a matter of habits.
Right.
If you've never done that and you want to try, then maybe you should try first. In my case, I'm not using the iPad as much as I thought I was going
Hmm.
to. And it feels bad, because it's an amazing piece of machinery, like really crazy technology, beautiful, but I'm not benefiting much from it.
Hmm.
So I'm not regretful 100% either, because some of my best stuff started on the iPad, like as
Hmm.
a sketch, even though then later on I continued it on my regular setup. But still, it's yeah. Yeah, same
Cool.
same thing about these um not contests. What would you call that? Like the Inktober thing, or
Oh yeah, yeah. The
all these things,
mhm.
like, yeah, you have to do that, or the creationary thing in
Creatuary,
January.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's really cool, and it can really help you to engage in like a mm, more consistent kind of habit, of
Hmm.
painting and drawing every day, like what you were saying before, right? I tried that a few years ago. um I just came back from LA. I was super inspired. I went to the first edition of Lightbox, and I decided to engage in this daily sketching practice. So I
Hmm.
told myself, okay, half an hour, right? Every day, half an
Right.
hour. That's it. Okay, that half an hour ended up like 4 hour
Yeah.
session.
It's hard to know where to stop.
because because I was like, but it's such a cool sketch. Like
Yeah.
maybe I could turn this into a finished painting. And that's when I started to do like every day. That was a new painting.
Hmm.
So eventually you make time for
Yeah.
anything you want. And yeah, but those people you mentioned, like those are like elite artists who, I don't know, every time I see them like do like a 365-day challenge,
Yeah.
like a whole year of daily paintings at that level. I don't know, man. Maybe one day. I still have a little bit to get there, but
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
of course, we can't all be like the whole social media thing and everything. Like, it's a great tool, but obviously, like, it allows that top 1%, 1 or 2% of artists, these people that just live and breathe art every day, and like, who knows if they even do anything else or eat or sleep. It allows them to
Yeah.
kind of like float to the surface. And of course, that's what we're being fed all day. It's just like, yeah, like these people exist, but I mean, you're not going to be that person. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's
We're just
not.
spending so long trying to become someone else
Mhm.
that we ignore who we are really, you know?
Yeah.
So, of course, there's like these stages in your life where you're like initially super excited about concept art and like drawing every day and like doing all these challenges, and then you realize it's not all about that necessarily, there's other stuff. And then you come to a balance with everything.
Hmm.
You find a place where you realize you can actually make time for your health,
Hmm.
for your family, for your friends, for I don't know, any other hobby that you might have, and also include art and your passion, in all that equation. So it's definitely doable.
Yeah. So I mean, I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe a lot of people, they might, look at your paintings or something, or some other professional artist, and be like, oh, like they started out as a kid and they were just like, I want to be a concept artist, and then they just worked every day to get to that point. I feel like that's
Yeah.
sometimes the narrative that happens. But
Mhm.
like what you're saying is, I mean, over years and years, you were just kind of following whatever interested you, and it wasn't always like about creating, fantasy landscapes or anything like that. It was like, you
Mhm.
go into some, like started out with sketches of just like your family doing, normal stuff, and then you moved into more like fundamentals and like graphic design stuff and a little photography, and it wasn't just this like straight shot from, you know from like
Yeah.
starting as an artist to like, doing what you do now, which is, creating like fantasy concept art and environments and
Yeah,
stuff
there's
like
been like
that.
times where I was not drawing that much,
Hmm.
like I was so much into photography that I would learn everything about that camera. First month, like I already knew everything, every single function, anything that the camera could do, I knew it. And I was so much into the theory. I was like, saving bookmarks and different pages of explanations on how light works and all that stuff. I was saving that. I was very much into that. But I'm not a photographer.
Hmm.
I was simply super inspired by all that new knowledge
Hmm.
that also opens up more doors for me. So look at me now. I'm using that in my art right now, in my
Hmm.
job. It's really helpful to know all those things. So I know I don't think we're like a lifetime is not enough for learning absolutely everything about how the world works. But this is,
Hmm.
I think, what we artists are trying to do. Because when you want to create something, you must understand where the reference comes from. Where,
Hmm.
what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, if you want to create a creature, like you must at least understand how musculature and like the anatomy works in other types of living beings and stuff. And it's basic knowledge.
Yeah.
And you feel like you need that as a base to start creating something.
That's a really cool point, and it's something that like I forget about sometimes, and it will come up occasionally. There will be these periods of like really intense learning, and like during those periods, I feel like, like you're not learning how to draw or paint better. You're learning like, yeah, you're learning like these fundamentals of how the world works. Like, if you want to understand how to paint light, um, you can't just, you can't just be thinking about what it looks like in every reference you see. You have to understand how it like hits something and bounces off, and like how the light refracts and changes colors. It's like it's this scientific process almost.
Yeah, and that
But
also involves not painting
yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
just
exactly.
observing.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
I felt when I read this book from James Gurney, Color and Light. I read that book
Oh
on
yeah.
I was on a trip, and we went to an event to promote the game that we were working on at the time. And I just, yeah, maybe a couple of sketches here and there, but nothing like I couldn't paint. So I had that book with me and I read it during that trip. And man, I was focused on anything. The way the lighting hits this tree leaf at like sunset. Yeah. Look at the subsurface scattering thing that you read about. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true. Like, look at that. And you pick up all these details, you know, in moments where you might be super tempted to just take your sketchbook or something and draw it or just paint it or take pictures, you know, but it's super useful to use your eyes because as far as I know, there's no camera, at least not that is accessible to people like us, you know, to capture reality the way you see it, the way you perceive it through your eyes.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
all those subtleties and the color variations and tones and let alone the time itself, like you have a tiny time frame, you know, when sun rises or sun sets, it changes so fast. So let's say in 5 minutes, you can witness like a wide range of different colors and stuff forming, you know, in the clouds and the way that I don't know, man. Just think of something as simple as the sky
Mhm.
and the way the color varies from here to here to back there. It's so different.
Yeah.
So all these things just makes me super curious and willing to learn more about it.
Hmm.
And that book, I recommend it, man. It's so good. Like it really teaches a lot of this stuff. And again, the same story as with the photography thing, like learning everything about the camera. Here I was, again, same vibes, same mood, you know, like, oh, man, lighting. Yeah, it's so cool. Like I
Hmm.
can now see how it works, refraction and, you know, water surface and how it deforms the image. And dude, seriously, like I was like on a rush of like knowledge and then when I sat down, I came back home, I wanted to practice all of that.
Right. Hmm.
And I swear, dude, it came out like if I've been practicing 100 drawings before, you
Hmm.
know, like it was so smooth. Like it just made sense, you
Yeah.
know. You allow that information to kind of be absorbed and processed and you interiorize that and it becomes like your second nature,
Hmm.
if you will.
Cool. Wow. I mean, I could I could go down this rabbit hole for a while. Of course, I should definitely check out that book because I've heard about it before, the James Gurney one. Um, I did want to ask too specifically. Um, you know, in terms of like how you got started in concept art, and like what that transition looked like for you from like you know just going from like this is a um, this is something I love doing. This is just something I've always been good at and a hobby. To
Yeah.
like this is what I do for a living. This is my job. And like, what did that transition look like? And did you like encounter any obstacles with that? And anything that kind of made that transition difficult.
Yeah. So I always knew that I was going to end up doing something related to art or creativity but I couldn't tell exactly what. Like, you know, this analogy of a shotgun and a sniper rifle, like laser focus or like more wide range kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know it's about art. I just don't know exactly. I can't pinpoint exactly what the industry is.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I didn't even know how it worked. As I
Mm-hmm.
already said, like when I discovered the concept art thing and the real application of it for video games and how it works and why, that's when I saw it. I said, okay, I have this click, you know, like, oh, that's it. Dude, this was made for me. Like, this is what I always wanted. And that's when I decided to kind of practice for myself, like simulating. I was already working on some other projects and I had some superior figures above me, like just telling me, okay, like an art director figure or something like that. Like, yeah, do that change and that change over there too. And then create this kind of concept and then make that and then prepare this for like so I would upload that and a friend of mine which I met 6 years prior to that moment,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he was currently doing like his own project. Like he created like a startup company, um, video game development, indie studio, super cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw me uploading that stuff online, and he asked me like, "Are you working on a video game?" And I'm like, "Nah, but it would be cool." So he was like, "Dude, like we need an artist." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Damn, okay." So we got in touch and they explained everything, and it was super cool. Like first time working professionally, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I was getting paid not much in the beginning, but then everything made progress. And dude, I was super flattered, you know, to be working like that, because of course you face those kind of comments from people who are relatively close to you saying like, it's not a real job, like you got to get make some money, you know, it's not a decent living, you got to get a normal job and keep this as a hobby maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then you keep going. And it's just because many people do not understand what's behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any idea how much money these industries move, you know. So and of course with that, all the opportunities, you know, all the job opportunities available. It's just that not anyone can get there, because you gotta be like at least this good, you
Mm-hmm.
know, at least like this, at least this, that. So that's why we're all here, like trying to get the best of it, and just, you know, improve ourselves to the level where we could be accepted in
Mm-hmm.
those companies, working for those projects and stuff. But um, you know, there's a point where like I was really like that at the beginning. I was like, man, I'm gonna work for the biggest companies in the world and move to this place and then live like this for a year and another 2 years on this other side of the world. And dude, I love just by being able to kind of reflect on all these things and witness how this evolution of a mindset goes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because right now I'm like experiencing all these possibilities for developing your own projects and just making your own stuff. And there's tons of examples out there of successful people who managed to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder, why not me? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly what I do. Why not? And I swear, dude, at the very beginning, I tried, like when I got that first job, at the same time, I was seeing, like, as I was expanding my contact list and all that stuff online, I saw a lot of people, a lot of artists coming up with their own projects. Here's my personal project, you know, here's my personal universe. This is my
Mm-hmm.
game. This is my world. And I was like, damn, dude, everybody's doing something. And I'm just here working for someone else. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that it's a bad thing, because I was equally excited, you know, for that particular project as well, especially when they said, okay, Adrian, you can take care of the lore if you want. I'm
Mm.
like, let's go.
Oh yeah,
And
nice.
I ended up developing that to a point where it wasn't even used in the final product.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's all experience.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I tried to force myself to come up with something like, come on, think of something.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work, man. Like the more you force it, the less it happens, you know, the less it comes to you. The like the more you chase something, the more it distances itself from you. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like my project Heavenurian has had like a very organic, natural path. Almost, it feels to me like destiny in a way, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like this was meant to happen. It was meant to be like this. And yeah, that's something I've been realizing, you know, that the more you try to force something, the less it tends to happen. But I have really conflicting thoughts in that segment, because, you know, it's like discipline, like, you know, forcing yourself to adapt to like a specific sequence of actions day by day, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you better. Practice makes perfect. But at the same time, I also allowed myself to explore that flow, that organic, like whatever happens, happens, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. And yeah, it's like that ultimate endless quest for like balance to
Mm-hmm.
find your spot, which is something that I think everybody is aspiring, but is a never-ending kind of quest, because it's probably I know I'm getting way too philosophical here, but
No,
it's
it's okay.
it's
Bring it on.
I think it's not about the the final destination thing. It's rather about the journey. It's
Mm-hmm.
each step, each stage, and enjoying all of that rather
Mm-hmm.
than just staying so focused on the final um yeah, your ultimate goal that you're missing out on all the what's really cool, which is the journey itself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not even sure if I answered the very question that you asked,
Well,
which was
that's okay. Actually, I mean, this is a perfect segue to for me to ask about your what you're
Mhm.
working on now, which is and actually, I'm not even sure I totally understand. It seems so like so vast and comprehensive. But could you, yeah, tell me a little bit about Heaven Urian and this kind of
Yeah,
world that you're building?
sure. So it's a fantasy based universe that I keep exploring for years now, and I'm having such a hard time kind of pinpointing stuff down because it keeps expanding in my mind, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
each thing I figure out, it's like it branches out into like 20 other possibilities, and like I suddenly start to connect dots and stuff, and I struggle to make like mental maps of all these concepts that keep coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's deeply rooted into the this connection between souls in a way, which is something that I've experienced firsthand. Like it's not necessarily, let's say, is like a representation or a reflection of my life experiences, my inspirations, what I like from fantasy, and yeah, like a little bit of my perception of reality in a way. Things you believe in, things you would like to happen, things that you think look cool, a little bit of everything. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in terms of story, I can't reveal anything because I don't have much advanced in that field yet. But um it's definitely about a guy with his giant beast creature,
Mm-hmm.
that of course both characters are inspired by myself and my little dog.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how this starts, man, because it's like there's one spark, that ignites the fire of all this fuel that you've been amassing for so long, which is like I'm not sure if you can see, but there's a bunch of like drawings on my walls and stuff. So all these paintings that I've been doing so far, I thought they would be like unrelated,
Mm-hmm.
to each other. And I'm not saying that the very ones you see around are the ones from this project, but rather it was like a build up for the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
for the visual library, if you wish,
Mm-hmm.
to create what I'm doing nowadays. And yeah, I would say this is a project that, dude, it fulfills me beyond belief. It's insane how happy I feel when I'm working on this. It means really, really a lot to me. And we can dive into other topics here, like, how you get this. It's weird because if it satisfies you so much, why not keep doing it? Why block yourself like that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want it to be so perfect that sometimes you say, no, let's do it later. This is for later, but
Mm-hmm.
because we need to perfect it further before people know about it. And yeah, and that's 1 year and 2 years, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, what's going on? Like, people want to know more about this and you're just hiding it. So that's what makes me feel so bad and lazy in a way, because I feel like I'm not clarifying enough. Like, the very ideas presented in the project, but it's all a bunch of places, technologies, magic, a lot of cultures, different beings, you know.
Mhm.
It's all like this religious, scientific, it's like different faces of the same coin, you
Mhm.
know. But I'm still struggling to kind of come up with a way to present it in a way.
Mhm.
So I don't know. That's why I never say like any release date or anything like that, because I don't really have a deadline, but it's something that I should start to work on. Because as I said earlier, like I had this period of time where I allowed myself to just simply be, you know, just create whatever you want, you
Mhm.
know, like don't force it, just let it out. And you get to a point where you realize you can't stay in that, as I say in my course, you know, in that sky, blue sky phase forever. You can't
Mhm.
stay in that place forever. You can't just be throwing out ideas, you know, nonstop. Like you have to narrow down the path at some point and get some direction. So this is what I'm currently doing. Like when this year started, which by the way, I started the year writing more ideas and working on Heavenry, and I decided to just just narrow it down a little more.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry that I didn't really say much about the project itself, but it's I honestly I wouldn't even know what to start with because there's so many things. As you said, it's so vast and so
Mhm.
and it keeps expanding, and I keep figuring out more and more stuff
Mhm.
that also leads me to kind of study those things in real life and see what available information is about those topics out there, and learn from it and incorporate it to my own project, and also filter it through my own understanding and adapt it to, like, you know, the stuff that inspired myself from my own life experiences, and I don't know, places I've been to, people that I've met, conversations that I've had. um it doesn't matter if it's a good or a bad experiences. E- Everything fuels me in that way, you know. It's inspiration nonetheless.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. You keep asking me questions because if I have to, if I have to just start saying it myself, I wouldn't know what to start with. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just hope that I can soon start to kind of reveal more and more stuff without hurting like the final product. Because I don't
Mhm.
want to give away like crucial information that would mean like a major spoiler or
Mhm.
something, because I don't even know what this is really going to be. Like, first thing I think of is a book, right?
Mhm.
But I keep exploring many other ways as well. Like maybe it doesn't need to be like a book only. Maybe
Mhm.
it can have some supporting content. Like, did you see that animation Adrian did about the characters from Heaven, like where they do this and that? Yeah, that's from this part of the story, which
Mhm.
doesn't show in the book. You have to watch that video.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I don't know. So yeah.
That's, I mean, it's really cool, man. And I love that it's not just like product focused. And I feel like that's, something that you can get really caught up in, especially, as a professional artist, or anyone. I mean, you just get kind of focused on the end result, and it just sounds like you're just so deeply immersed in like this creative world, and it's just kind of, practically forming itself, which is kind of what we're all after with our creative process. So, um,
Yes.
yeah, I
I'm
can't wait
sure
to.
there's gonna be a time where I'm gonna be super stressed because the deadline, and I
Mhm.
promise this will come out this day, and I have to
Mhm.
do it. But at least at that point, all of the story, all the character arcs, all of the paintings, all the images, and all that stuff is already done. You know, like you no longer have to worry about that. Maybe just perfecting the final details or something, but it's like I know this is like like ups and downs, you know,
Mhm.
like a roller coaster today is fun, tomorrow's gonna be hell, but it's like a good hell, you know. It's
Yeah.
like you're working on your own stuff.
Mhm.
That's what makes me super happy.
I wanted to have an opportunity as well to kind of put this to you before we kind of wrap things up here. And I think a lot of people that follow my channel are like beginner artists themselves or aspiring concept artists or that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So, um, what would you if you were to give any advice or recommendations or suggestions to people who are trying to get into the line of work that you're doing, or pursue their own creative projects or something, what advice would you give people who are trying to do that?
Know yourself.
Mm.
And that can only be achieved through like lots of testing and experiments. And well, this is the way I see it, at least. Like, you should try stuff that you think you like and see if you like it for
Mhm.
real. Like, but don't test it. Like, I've seen many people releasing like YouTube videos like, I did this for 7 days. This is what happened.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think that's enough time to realize if you, it's a routine. It's discipline takes a long time, and you have to have like this mental fortitude to adapt to that new thing. And remember, no big change has ever felt good in the beginning, you know? So it's only after a while, and I mean a while, could be weeks, that you really start to kind of notice those benefits from this new change you made.
Mhm.
And this is valid for almost anything. Any kind of little addiction, little negative behavior that you think you have, stuff you want to get rid of, that is not going to feel nice in the beginning, but then long term, you're going to feel the benefits.
Mhm.
Same thing with painting. Same thing with, I want to learn how to draw awesome female characters. I don't know, in dynamic poses and stuff, or dragons. I like dragons, but I don't know how to draw them very well. So guess what you do? You practice, and you practice. If you want to become a better martial artist, like, you start somewhere. There's always different techniques of stretching and improving yourself. If you want to become an animator, then you start to kind of grasp on the fundamentals of movement and distortion and figures. And I don't know, there's so many things that, seriously, like, my advice is just find your voice. And that is not going to happen overnight. That's going to take a while. To find your voice means to really truly listen to yourself. And to do that, you'll have to drown out all the other voices. This is a metaphor for all the noise that's present in nowadays society, right? We're constantly bombarded with all this never ending flux of information. And all these things are fighting for your attention all the time. A
Mhm.
lot of advertisement here and there, and do this, and look at me now. And you get lost. So one way to do that is to just shut up, shut up, try to not think of anything, not listen to anyone. And I don't mean this in a literal way. Like, you don't have to, seclude yourself in your own room and be like, no, dude, it's just, this is what a lot of people don't do, Nobody ever takes 5 minutes to just think, okay, what am I doing? You know, where is this leading me?
Mhm.
Like, just think for a second the why of things that you do, and you'll see how many things you come up with. Because this look, this that's a very easy way to realize how many mistakes you're making, right? um so yeah, it was coming out nice as a message, but I think I messed up there. I interrupted it with some stupid example.
No,
But
I
yeah,
think.
that would be my advice, like,
Mhm.
just try to understand a little bit of your own behaviors, your own mind, why you do what you do, why you say what you say, why you react the way you react in certain situations, but not in other situations.
Mhm.
And maybe this is just like a reflection of what inspires me and what kind of gets me super curious about. like our very nature, like our reason of being, like call it whatever you want. It's what I'm deeply fascinated by,
Mm-hmm.
our very existence, and I'm trying to understand it a little better. So these questions naturally come up, but that's just me. Maybe some other people are not so interested in this stuff, but they're deeply interested in some other aspects of it. Um, Whatever you feel like, man, just listen to that voice and just follow it and see where it takes you.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not a nice place, you can always redirect the route, like you can always change and say, okay, I'm going to leave this behind now. This is my new direction. Because a lot of people feel like lost, like not necessarily only lost, but also like it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that a lot. Like, yeah, but what would you do? I'm 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think this is time for me to start painting? Dude, there's so many celebrity cases of people absolutely killing it in their 50s,
Mm-hmm.
even 60s. Like, they just blossom out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And people think, yeah, but they were lucky. Yeah, but that's not me. Yeah, but that's different lifestyle. That's a different conversation. It's always like that kind of excuse. So I'm trying to adopt more of this mindset of the just do it thing. Like, whenever you think of something, like, okay, don't think too much about it. Overthinking is like a big enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's holy shit. Like, it's okay if you think twice about doing something, especially if it's like a big risk. But dude, just to sit on it for days and days and days and never actually do it that's what kills you.
Yeah.
Have you seen Dune, the movie?
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I'm sure it's on the books too, but I haven't read them.
Mm-hmm.
So that phrase, that quote, like fear is the mind killer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I must not fear. I've repeated that loud these recent days
Mm-hmm.
for for a few times because it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. Like when you get rid of that, that's when you feel so much more free and you commit to what you truly care about. And I don't know. Stop thinking that. Stop trying to guess what other people are thinking about you.
Mm.
You don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, but I'm sure they're gonna see the hand that I drew is like wrong, or I'm sure they're gonna notice that this is not what spaceships look like. But who cares, dude? You just do it, and
Yeah.
then you get the big surprise. Everybody is like, just what's the word I'm looking for? Like saying nice things to you, complimenting you and
Mm-hmm.
just saying how bad they would love to paint like you or to draw like you. Because all those little mistakes, that's only stuff you can see,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps other people who are truly looking for that, because you ultimately see what you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a way to shape your own reality. If you look for good stuff, you will most likely find good stuff. Bad stuff, you can find that too if you're looking for it. But yeah, just be aware of all these things and stay creative and just follow your passion, man. Just follow your calling, your voice. Find that, whatever it is. Sooner or later, it comes to happen.
All right. Wow, it's a deep dive, and there's a lot to think about there. I mean, man, I'm reevaluating my whole every
I know
life decision.
I talk a lot, man.
No,
I talk a lot, but
that's great stuff. Yeah, I think that's
it's just
that's
things I
awesome
reflect
advice.
upon, every
Yeah.
now and then.
Well, it's definitely, I think something people miss sometimes when they get caught up in, trying to be like they see these people and they just be like, I want to make art like him, or like, I want to have that career or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
the one thing everyone has, no matter what skill level they're at, is just they have themselves, and everyone has something unique to bring to the table. And, it sounds like that's a good place to start.
Definitely. Yeah, that's what I feel when people, like imagine someone says, "Oh, I want to be as good as Adrian." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Dude, you can be even better. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Come on. Just be yourself. You're not the next Adrian. You're
Right.
not the next Picasso, the next whatever, insert celebrity name here.
Mhm.
You're the next you. You're you, you're unique."
Mhm.
And I think that's how most beautiful stories come to happen, man. Like when someone listens to that inner call and follows it. Yeah, that's my best advice that I can get. Just trust yourself and know yourself.
Right on. Cool. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to leave it.
Thank you so much for inviting me, man.
Of course, it's been a real pleasure talking with you. If you know, you have your YouTube channel, you have Instagram, you have your website.
Yeah.
If
I'm
people
on
want to,
Instagram, YouTube,
yeah,
you can just find me by my name.
Where would you recommend people start if they want to know more about your work?
Probably my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm more active there. I would like to retake YouTube and be more consistent, as I said. But yeah, because our station is more like of a, you know, like highlights of highlights. Like I only post there like the best work, not many sketches and stuff like that, which is what you could see on my Instagram. That's why I'm redirecting you to Instagram. So yeah, feel free to check it out, and if you like it, maybe follow.
Awesome. Yes, please do. Yeah, I'll include that stuff in the description below. So yeah, thanks so much, Adrian. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and yeah, look forward to seeing what you do next.
Likewise, thank you so much for inviting me, and yeah, I hope to see you in the next one, maybe.
Awesome.